now the way our veterans are treated is not very good. I have a lot of friends that I went to high school with that served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they don't see the fruits of their labors over there, and they feel like this whole idea of support our troops is just like an idea, and it's not really something that we see translated into the business world. Just talking with my buddy who was in the Marines, I was talking with him yesterday, and the best job he could find, and he served 2 tours in Iraq, the best job he could find was moving boxes at a Home Depot warehouse. And it's not something that I think is really fair for our veterans. They went over there, they fought hard for the American ideals, they fought hard for the American system, and they get treated in a way that it's not part of our American value system. And I think we need to really address that, and the best way to do that is to create programs for them.
Back to the Congressman.
Thank you. First of all, we need to make sure that we're addressing the health benefits of our veterans. The disabled veterans, if you know that you're disabled on active duty or wounded warrior, you already ought to have your certification for disability before you actually have to go off and work yourself through the VA process. We've got a wounded warrior on staff that has helped us to change the bureaucracy, and then we need to make sure that we're dealing with the records. You go from the Department of Defense, once you're discharged, and then you have to file with the VA for whatever benefits you have. There should be a seamless transition with everything from your medical records to all of your records going directly to the VA, and the VA needs to also be able to communicate with the veteran centers. I have a bill that will actually allow the vet centers to request information from the VA so that you have a seamless process. But the biggest issue, I think, is getting our veterans back to work. And when I was on active duty, I was a jet mechanic. I was able to work on some of the most sophisticated aircraft in the world, but once I was discharged from the military, being able to get that same certification, that same job from the civilian standpoint was about impossible.
Bring it, Doc.
I heard her.
The congressman.
It wouldn't be the first time they turned the microphone off.
The congressman can just keep talking. Veterans, we should honor the promises we make them. When they walk in that enlistment office and join, it's one of the greatest sacrifices. They're willing to lay it down for us. So we got to make sure they're taken care of when we send them off in harm's way. And we've done it. We've been in war over the last 10, 11 years. Both parties got us into 2 long wars. They did it. They put that priority on top of everything else. They've given us a hill of misery, and it's came down to the veterans. The veterans aren't getting the care they need. So we have to be extra diligent on taking care of the men and women when they come home after serving our great country. We can do that by streamlining the programs like the congressman has said. But make sure our economy's clicking. Let's get our debt under control. Let's make sure Medicare is strong. That all benefits the veterans. They're a priority. We made them a promise. Let's live up to it.
Thank you. This is the last question, and then what we're going to do is we're doubling the time for closing from 2 to 4 minutes. And if a candidate at the 1-minute sign wants to reserve a minute for rebuttal, then they will see the sign. You're going to point the sign up 1 minute, and then you can reserve that time. Okay? And that will give us to the 1:30 hour. All right. Are we all in agreement? Okay. We're doubling the closing from 2 minutes to 4 minutes. And we're adding, go ahead.
We don't have a 1-minute sign.
Oh, she says she has it right there, doesn't she? 30 seconds?
Yeah, you said 1 minute.
Well, if they want to save time, do you have a 1 minute?
No.
No? She's doing 1 minute. Okay. For any rebuttal, any final comment, last word, we want to be able to allow the candidates to speak. Okay, last question. And that will be, is that Mr. Barclays? We'll start with you, right? Okay. Latinos will comprise a majority of our workforce in the next 10 to 20 years. What actions will you take to see that youth gets well educated and prepared for the future?
Well, I've been working on my rudimentary Spanish skills. Yo soy un candidato para Congreso de los Estados Unidos. Muchas gracias. I've knocked on doors of 22,000 voters. Various Anglos have been jerks, but I have always been treated exquisitely well by the Latino people I've talked with. Whatever goes on, we need to continue to work to integrate the Latino community with the rest of us so that it is a seamless, and if I might say, democratic whole. The Latinos need to start voting in the greater percentages, and that would help. If they get the voting power, then they can handle whatever they need to do, or we need, in order to get work done together.
What was the question?
Latinos will comprise the majority of our workforce in the next 10 to 20 years. What steps will you take to see that youth is well educated and prepared for the future?
I believe that the best way to educate our youth is through our schools. And saying that, I think we need to have schools that really help out. In Patterson, there's a school called Walnut Grove Elementary School, and they have Spanish and English classes, and it's a bilingual school, and it's really successful. It was the best school I substituted at when I was a substitute teacher, and I noticed that the kids there really had they seem to have a little bit more of a leg up on all the other students in town, and it's mainly because they had that bilingual education. I think that's very important, and also to try to strive for every child to reach to the college level. I mean, we should strive for every Latino, every different ethnicity. They should all strive for that. And I think that's going to be the best way to do so.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you. This is actually one of the issues that drove me into politics. The ongoing discussion between my wife and I whether our kids would go to public or private school. She was first generation. Her dad immigrated from Mexico, her mother immigrated from Puerto Rico, and finally they decided to put their daughter into private school because our current education system was failing them. I don't know that the federal government has a large role to play in the K-12 education realm. We should be block granting money to the states. Presidents of both parties, whether it's No Child Left Behind or Race to the Top, continue to try to dictate to states and don't do a very good job at it. Let's get rid of the Department of Education. Let's block grant the money to the states and allow all education funding to be local. The one area that the federal government should focus on is higher ed and making sure that we fully fund Pell Grants so that our students, as they graduate from high school, actually have an opportunity at greater higher education. And so that is a federal responsibility of the federal government, whether it's in tough times, especially during tough times, especially during tough budget years. We need to fully fund Pell Grants.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree. Local is better on education. Local is always better on most issues. Pell Grants, we ought to be very supportive. Student loan interest rates ought to be slashed. We ought to be supportive. People that go to, the kids that go into college now, they go to college, they've amassed such a debt after they're done, and with the economy, they can't find a job. So we face Latino, everybody faces those real issues that when they get out of college, they can't find a job, and they got a huge amount of debt, and they got to turn to mom or dad, hopefully, if they can help. But with the budget and the situation in D.C., you're not going to get it fixed, ladies and gentlemen. Education is going to be on the chopping block. We can talk about block granting education money back to the locals. That's great. Principals, teachers, parents should always decide. But with the situation going in D.C., it's not going to happen because both parties have created a hill of debt that we're dealing with.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
One of the things that we have to ensure ourselves is that we have to engage all segments of society into the educational process, and that means ensuring everybody has the same educational opportunities. There's studies out there that are showing that India and China are graduating 7 to 10 times more engineers than us. And I'm sorry, but what that is telling me is that the countries that are out educating us today are going to outcompete us tomorrow. So what do we do in the Latino community? Latino community, what we need to do is we need to make sure kids have the same, they're on the same level playing field. That means we need to fund programs such as Head Start, to do high school, college programs, put a STEM emphasis, science, technology, engineering, math, into their education process. I think if we do that and engage the Latino community along with their Caucasian and African American counterparts and Asian counterparts, then this country will remain being the great country we are today.
Thank you. That concludes the prepared question segment of our forum. And now we're going to go to closing, and we're going to start with Mr. McCormack and then work back this way to the congressman. And as a repeat, you have 4 minutes, and if you want to reserve a minute to rebut, then the one sign, then that's your closing. Okay, here we go. Mr. McCormack.
Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you here for coming, and that I really appreciate the opportunity to speak. I believe that I will be the best candidate, and I am right now the best candidate for this congressional run, because I live here in this area. I've lived here since 1996 when I moved from the Bay Area, and I know how that was there. I know this is better. I know I've traveled around the world. I spent some time in New Zealand and Australia, and while I was traveling, I saw differences of opinion on how America operates. I saw how we can do better. And I've been there. I've seen it. I was a scientist. Right out of college, I was a research and development scientist for a chemistry company here in Modesto. And after that, I'm kind of like just trying to find my niche. And I think this is it. I think this is my niche. This is where I'm at right here. I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to run. I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to represent you guys in Congress. And that's why I'm running. I don't have any type of funding. I've got nothing when it comes to that. The last money I made was in 2010. I made $5,000 as a substitute teacher. So I know how to stretch a dollar. I kind of put myself out there, and I've seen a lot of problems. I watch a lot of TV. I watch a lot of political shows. I see how it all works, and I know the system. I know how to fix it. I know we can do better. Right now, from what I've heard, Congress has a 9% approval rating, and that's not good for America at all. We need to change that. We need to make it better. We need to get people back on track to what the American dream really is. We need to say, hey, like JFK said, he said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And I think we need to open up that type of debate, that type of forum, where people need to be like, what can I do to help America out? And our leaders need to be saying, here's what you can do. This is what you can do. This is what you can do. Because we have a lot of spare time. We have a lot of spare time. We watch a lot of TV. We have all this excess. And we need to help out. We need to help out our country. And there's a lot of things that I see that can be done. And I think one of the best ways to do that is through research and development and education. And if we allow that to happen, I think we can have 1,000 more Steve Jobs. Because if we don't do it here in America, they're going to do it in China, and they're going to do it in India, and they're going to do it all across the world. And we're going to be lagging, and that's not going to be good. Another way to get out of this financial crisis, we have 80% of the world's gold. I read this somewhere. I think it was on Wikipedia. And because we have all this gold, we can leverage that to get ourselves out of this big debacle that we're in. We went to Iraq. We took all the gold from Saddam Hussein, and he had so much gold, he didn't know what to do with it. He was making toilet seats out of it. He had palaces full with gold. We have all that gold now. We can use that. We can use that to pay different workers, and I think that with things like that, we won. With the spoils of war are ours after we won these wars. Now let's do something about it. Let's rebuild America. Let's make it a better place. I'm going to reserve 1 minute.
Okay, Mr. Barkley, you have 4 minutes. You can use them all or reserve a minute for a rebuttal.
This is a simple election. You may not have picked it up from listening to us here, but it is what it is. On my website is my platform. I am a progressive Democrat. That used to be called liberal. Now it's progressive. Somebody changed the name on us. 1 progressive versus 4 conservatives. That is what this election is about. One person with specific solutions to specific problems, and 4 guys with generalities. I'm a lawyer. I can read and write legislation. I'm a CPA. I can read and write budgets in the tax code. I'm a computer programmer. I read and write data and information. I hate unfairness in the way our country functions, especially lately. I am uniquely skilled in legislation, budgets, data, information, and empathy to be your congressman and look out for your interests. I have knocked on the doors of more than 22,000 voters in this district since August. Before that, I attended 95 regional meetings while waiting for this district to gel. I listen to people, I learn their problems, and I accumulate suggestions for legislative solutions. I have collected on my website, which is on these cards, a specific detailed platform. There's no pretty pictures, just specifics to solve the collective problems we face. We need to bring jobs back to this country. I have a specific multi-point plan on my website to do that, some of which I think we can get past the Republicans. We need to strengthen the unions, the great heart of the middle class, the great step up out of poverty for people without a college degree. We cannot bring the jobs back to this country without the unions, and we cannot strengthen the unions without bringing the jobs back. We need to strengthen voter rights, currently under assault by the Republicans. I list a specific plan. We need to solve California's water problems. I have a specific plan on my website to do just that, solve all of California's water problems with one federal bill, including the most deadly problem, a repeat of the floods of 1861, 1862, which I think left about 8 foot deep of water where we are sitting here now. This plan will probably get me kicked out of the Sierra Club, but it is feasible. I wrote a U.S. budget that balances now. It solves the energy crisis and the balance of payments problems, fully funds Medicare for all, and offloads the $16 billion Medicaid budget of California onto the federal budget, freeing up enough money to hire back most of the teachers and police and fire people we've discarded in this state. Parts of the budget are not advisable in this economy, but they can be phased in or negotiated since it produces more than $1/3 of $1 trillion surplus this year to use on infrastructure or whatever else we desperately need. I have a specific plan to stop foreclosures dead in their tracks and start rebuilding our housing industry. There are many other specific proposals on my platform. I encourage you to pick up one of these cards, go online, read through my platform, and send me email on changes you would like to see or things you think I may have missed. Thank you.
Reserved a minute?
Yes.
Yes, you did?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you did. Okay.
A lot of people ask me, now, Jose, why do you want to go from a job that has 100% approval rating to one that has 8% approval rating? And let me tell you why. We have to take a step back, though, to when I was 9 years old, because I was born and raised here in the Valley. I lived here all my life, with the exception of my NASA career. And when I was 9, I was old enough to remember the tail end of the Apollo program, Apollo 17. Here we were living as migrant farm workers in the Valley, watching Gene Cernan walk on the moon. I went to bed that night very, very determined that that was my calling. I shared that with my father. My father sat me down at the same kitchen table, must have seen the determination in my eyes that my mom sat me down every day to do our homework. And he said, you can do it. Just follow the simple steps. You work hard and you get yourself an education. You take the same work ethic in the fields that you do right now, work in the fields, and apply it to your education and to your job. And you'll be able to reach it because we're in America and you can reach the American dream. Fast forward now, I got selected in 2004, flew in 2009, came back and gave some talks at schools in our community. And what I saw was a different picture than when I left. We were at the peak of our mortgage foreclosure crisis. Unemployment was twice the national average, and yet our congressmen weren't doing anything to alleviate that. And so I said, enough is enough. I saw parents that were at the same stage my parents were, with the look of disillusionment, in the sense that they were losing faith that the American dream was attainable for their kids because they were too busy trying to put food on the table. That's when I said, enough's enough. I'm going to come back and I'm going to try to change things because I know what a gallon of milk costs. And if I'm portrayed as an outsider for going out into space, then so be it. But I was born and raised here, and I've worked in these fields as a member of this valley. And so we have to restore faith in the American dream, and that's why I'm running. And I'm running to make sure that all the elements are put together in Congress in terms of legislation, such that if the American people work hard and get themselves an education, they too can reach for their own stars. And that's why I'm running for Congress, and I'll save my minute.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for having us today. It was a great event, and I certainly enjoyed being with these folks. They go through a lot, walking precincts and campaigning full time. It's hard work, and the way to do it is meet and talk to as many people as you can. My name is Chad Condit. I grew up in Ceres, California, just up the road here, and I'm an independent. I'm running for Congress to truly make a difference. We've all answered these questions today. Some tough questions, most of them were tough questions. Doesn't really matter, folks. If you elect the two major candidates that represent the two major parties in D.C., they're just going to go do what their party tells them to do. That's the bottom line. That's how it works. Okay, we can come up with fancy answers and smooth answers, but that's what's going on here. And these two parties, mind you, and this isn't, I have a grandma that is a Democrat. I have an uncle that's a Republican. I used to be a Democrat, as all of you know. But it's broke in D.C. This isn't an offense to you if you're registered out there and you're a Democrat or a Republican up in Crow's Landing or out in Manteca. It's not about you. These parties have gotten out of control. $15 trillion worth of debt. Okay? Wars that have lasted the last decade. A housing crisis that they gave you, hand-delivered to you, to the Central Valley, and didn't do anything about it until an election year. They're going to try to throw some money at you. This is what the parties have given you. Now, I'm just here to tell you the truth. I may be a little ahead, and we may be independent down the road, but if we don't get an independent voice and an independent vote, we're going to be in a world of hurt. A world of hurt. We need true independence. Not someone that's going to go back and check with the party how they're going to vote. But someone's going to check on the district and listen to the district. That's what it's about, ladies and gentlemen. And it's the only way we'll make a difference. You can, these guys got great resumes, much better than mine, I'm sure. But they won't be an independent for you. You've got to be independent. You cannot go there and give your vote or be a vote for any particular party, because it will not benefit the Central Valley. It will not benefit Modesto or any of the cities in the new 10th district. It will not do it. Don't let them take you for granted. The arrogance that comes out of D.C. that you're just going to go vote for them after the 10 years they just gave us. That's what they're banking on. And I'm here to tell you about it. I grew up here. Everybody knows my last name, who I am. And I love this district. I love this country. I joined the Navy because I love the country. So I'm here to tell you the truth. I'm going to walk every precinct. I want to talk to all of you. I'll answer any question you have. But the truth of the matter is, unless we change D.C., unless we become an independent voice, we won't change anything. God bless y'all. Thank you.
I'm a freshman congressman that for the last year and a half have been focusing on getting rid of waste in government. I ran for office because I believe very simply that we ought to be leaving our country in a better place than it was left for us. And there aren't too many people that can say that right now, that their kids are going to have more opportunities than we have. When you have $16 trillion worth of debt, when you have a Medicare system, a safety net that is, by both parties agree that it is going bankrupt. We need strong solutions. I'm there to make a difference. I'm there to get both parties to work together to find bipartisan solutions, and I'm here to tell you that we can do it. I chair the Committee on Economic Development, Emergency Management, which is FEMA, and Public Buildings. And in one of my first meetings, talked to the President about an idea to sell some of the properties that we don't use today. Properties that are sitting vacant, properties that could be redeveloped. And there's an opportunity now that we've got our bill over into the Senate is working with us. We're working directly with the administration to prove that Republicans and Democrats can come together to get rid of waste, to get rid of some of the properties that we could sell off to reduce our debt, to redevelop and put people back to work some of these federal buildings like the old post office here in Modesto, or the old post office in Washington, D.C., where instead of spending $6.5 million every year on a vacant building, now that it's going to be redeveloped, we're going to get $25 million back every single year to help us reduce our debt. So I'm here to tell you that there are bipartisan solutions out there. As well, I'm on the Veterans Committee. And as I was trying to say on the certification, I had all of the certification in the Air Force to be a jet mechanic on the outside. It just didn't transfer over without 3 more years of training to work on less sophisticated aircraft. We ought to be certifying our veterans before they leave the Department of Defense, before they're discharged. You can be a truck driver in the military, you ought to be able to be a truck driver in the civilian world as well. Our military men and women, the brave men and women, ought to be able to have immediate certification for public safety, for mechanics, for aircraft mechanics like I were. But we need to be able to certify them on active duty, and I'm proud to say that when I introduced the bill, it was an idea that I had. Both Republicans and Democrats stood up and said, that sounds like a great idea. In fact, the Senate immediately introduced their own version of the bill. We have to come together and make sure that we're putting Americans first. And with that, we also need to become an industrialized nation again. Too many jobs have left our country. And they're not willing to come back until we become competitive again. Now, we're going to pay higher labor rates as we should. But then the question is, how do you become competitive then? We need to be an energy-independent nation, one that uses all of our natural resources, not just water here in the Central Valley to get our ag economy going again, but making sure we follow our timber harvesting plan, making sure that the biomass is moving again, and we actually have that clean energy. That hydro, the greenest energy, ought to be categorized as green energy as well. And I'll save my 1 minute.
Thank you. Mr. Condon, rebuttal? You have 1 minute.
It's a buyer's market. I mean, it's a good effort to save some money by the Congress and Mr. Denham, certainly, but it's a buyer's market. Taxpayers aren't getting the most bang out of their buck, but if that's the best they can give us, then that's okay. And that's all I have to say. It's a rebuttal. I appreciate your support on June 5th.
Thank you. Mr. Barkley?
Bernie Sanders is the senator from New Hampshire, one of those places up there. He's an independent. Say again? Vermont, right next door. He's an independent. He caucuses with the Democrats usually. It doesn't matter what label you put on yourself, but if you are an independent and you stay an independent, you won't get a darn thing done in Washington, D.C. You have to join caucuses. You have to join with your party. You have to negotiate for votes. You have to trade this vote for that vote. Sometimes it's disgusting. Sometimes you don't like what the results are. But if you don't participate with your caucus, in my case, which would be the progressive Democrats, you won't get anything done. This election is simple. 1 progressive Democrat versus 4 conservatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCormack. 1 minute.
I never knew I was a conservative until right now. But I mean, I don't really even know what that means. And that's why I put no party preference on my voter thing, because I never really identified with Republican and Democrat. I mean, I like the fact that we were able to sit here and eat and talk with you guys, because that's what I do at home with my parents. That's what I do with my family. We sit around, we discuss politics, we discuss religion, the 2 things that you probably should never discuss at the dinner table. Yet we always leave happily. Now, in terms of when I'm elected to Congress and when I'm sitting there and I have to work with Republicans and Democrats, what am I going to do because I'm a no-party candidate? I'm going to go with whoever's the majority. I'm going to go say, hey, we need to get this passed because this is what needs to happen to get people back to work. This is what we need to do. This is exactly how we're going to do it, and here's the bill for it. I don't have a lawyer background, but I can understand law. I can read it. I've been a teacher. I've been a scientist. I'm an entrepreneur. I know what it takes to get businesses going here, and right now you just can't do it. It's nearly impossible. And so vote for me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Condit called the congressman on the Federal Dream Act and not giving a straight answer. And I think I'll force our congressman to use his minute up and give us a straight answer on women's access to health care. I think I want to hear his straight answer. Simple yes or no would do for me. But finally, I also want to do is just make my final case with respect to why you should support me. You know, I'm a member of the Latino Community Roundtable. Ever since I came back to the community in January, I became a member and I've been attending the meetings. And so who better to represent the interests of the Latino Community Roundtable than one of your own members who understands what the issues are and who's with you at the monthly meetings. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congressman?
Thank you. Let me first start by saying thank you to the Latino Community Roundtable for hosting this today, and thank all of you for your participation. I know you all have busy schedules, so getting out and listening to a lot of us with our ideas, you ought to be commended for. It's an important election coming up. And let me just reemphasize, I'm a local farmer, I'm a local small businessman, and I'm a veteran of the Air Force, 16 years, served in Desert Storm in Somalia. I'm somebody that wants to get both parties to work together, find a way to get Republicans and Democrats, find out where we agree. And I'm proud to say that if you look at our endorsement lists, it's not a partisan list. Local Democrats, Independents, Republicans, all have endorsed me, and I'm proud not only to have represented this community in the state Senate for 8 years, but in the first term of Congress, we're making some real changes. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our forum for this afternoon. And now it's your turn to go out and vote, participate civically, and say thank you to the candidates and your applause. Thank you.
Before you leave, can you please give a huge round of applause to all the candidates and the King Kennedy